Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Business Spotlight. I, of course, am Scott McMeans with Action Coach, and I'm here today with Ralph Ware from Real Property Management-Valor. And what I'd like to do is turn the microphone and the camera over to Ralph. He's going to tell us about himself, a little bit of his history, and what he does at Real Property Management. So, Ralph, please, the microphone and camera are yours.
I appreciate it, Scott. First off, thanks for giving me the opportunity. I'm looking forward to having this discussion. Again, like you said, my name is Ralph Ware. I started Real Property Management-Valor just over 3 years ago. It was my first endeavor outside of a career of service in the Army, and our primary function is that we deliver residential and commercial property management services across Northeast Ohio. When we started, we had no doors, nothing really to manage, but we've quickly grown to 275 doors over the last 3 years. And we're looking to find creative ways to continue to scale and grow into different sectors, again, mainly within the Northeast Ohio sector.
Outstanding. The military background, I want to let everybody know that you are a graduate of the military academy. And I
I
think that's
am.
something that people need to recognize. The intelligence, the value, the virtue that one needs to get into that academy is top level. So we are talking to somebody that has a long career in the U.S. military, somebody who started off and now has finished his career and looking to do something in business. And Ralph, I got to say, what we've talked about earlier, pretty successful career, and now you're starting out on business. So tell me, what's the difference between being a colonel in the Army and now running your own business in the private sector? Walk me through that.
Yeah, well, I think first of all, I really appreciate the warm introduction. I will simply tell you that it was probably one of my biggest honors to be able to spend about 22 years serving in the Army and eventually retiring. Uh, I also I love having the conversation with other business owners and with other people outside of the military to say there was probably no better preparation for me than a career in service to think about business. Uh, the Army, the Army, just like some of the other services, does a great job as far as equipping all of its soldiers with all of the attributes that you'd want to be or that you need in order to be a great business person. Uh, the having the discipline to make certain that you are where you need to be when you're supposed to be there, understanding how valuable your people are and what it's like to build and maintain a strong, high performing team, all essential elements to business ownership. But I would also say that one of the biggest surprises that I found was humility. There's nothing like the humility associated with starting an unknown endeavor, kind of walking off that ledge and making the decision that good or bad, I'm going to put myself out there and see if I can make something out of this business. I would tell you that it was the time and experience in the Army that gave me the confidence to be able to try it out, uh, be comfortable making mistakes, learning from them, and then make adjustments and moving forward.
I love the idea that you're comfortable making mistakes and moving forward because not too many people are. I think one of the biggest challenges most business owners have is they believe everything has to be run, everything has to be done to a T. And if it's not, they're going to lose. And I think the feeling or the lack of sensation towards failure gives people a false sense of security. So
I
walk me through, talk to me a little bit about the word humility and how you foresee it being
Sure.
a very strong asset in the world of business. Because I
Well,
think you're touching on something that's really powerful because you would think most people in the military don't have humility, but the way you're describing it is you are humble because you're following a certain process that's already been in place, but you have the creativity to do something that is bigger than yourself. So I'm sorry, please go ahead.
no, I think your observation is spot on, Scott. And I think the analogy that probably best illustrates that is that 80% rule. I think everyone associates or knows that, if you're in the Army or you're in the military, you have a reputation. You can violently execute that plan. What a lot of people don't appreciate is that in most cases, that plan's not fully developed. You've got this time standard, and so even though you want to be able to sit down and review and analyze, at some point you've got to make a decision to move forward. One of the cascading impacts of violently executing a plan that's not completely or fully developed is you've you start off knowing that you're going to have to adapt, you're going to have to make adjustments throughout the process. And so, the attribute, going back to your first question, that I think that you pull from that military service, it's not just the level of motivation, the level of commitment to move forward in a direction, but it's also that self-awareness to know that you're moving in a direction that you know you're going to have to adjust based on the circumstances, based off of the feedback, based on the environment. And I think that absolutely translates to business ownership. I can think of several examples as we grew this business where we absolutely knew the direction, the way that we're going to grow, the way we're going to grab a market share, or the way we're going to, increase our profitability. But it wasn't until we actually got into it, we realized that best intention, but we were wrong, or that we misread the marketplace, or we misread the demand signals. And so making those adjustments, being comfortable and saying, hey, our process for building that plan was correct, even though the plan wasn't. We use that same process to plan the adjustment, and then we keep pushing forward.
I think the idea of being comfortable and confident in yourself is one thing, but being comfortable and confident in knowing we've gotten ourselves to right now, and now we're faced with a different challenge. We are comfortable and confident moving forward because either we've learned it, we know it, or we're going to figure it out. Either way, you're moving forward. I
Absolutely.
it's a great rough, it's a great representation of how a military organization runs because I think people just think it's very rigid. And I'm not going to say it's not, but your testimony here is it is a violent execution of a predisposed plan that we know is going to have to be adjusted. So let's be creative. Let's put this together knowing there's contingencies all throughout this process.
Absolutely. And I think that I found as I did that analysis or that introspective look when I got ready for retirement that I liked solving hard problems. More than
Mhm.
anything else, I liked being challenged by something that was difficult and working my way through that. I liked building teams. I liked grabbing individuals that had strengths and weaknesses that when you pull them in and collect as a collective, they're stronger than the sum of their parts. And I felt like, and I still feel strongly that those are all things that directly align with entrepreneurship, with starting a new business. And as I think back through the highs and lows of this business over the last several years, I attribute a lot of those successes not to anything that I've done, but to the different attributes that the members of this team have brought in, their own experiences that contribute to that common direction that we're moving. That's made this office be able to deliver a high level of service consistently, and still meet all of our goals and create a learning, growing culture and environment.
Always learning means you always will find out something new. I think it's fantastic. The the success you've had today, I want to roll back a little bit and ask you the question. When you think about success, what's the first name that comes to your mind?
The first, like, person name or the first thing?
The first name. Like what person are you identifiable or identifying as success?
Wow, that's a hard question.
Okay.
And I would say for me, the model that I use for success is probably one that was built by my mother, Charlotte Ware. And I think about my current pursuits with regard to entrepreneurship, business ownership, the way in which I try to grow the people that I'm working with and for, was a model that I saw through my childhood as she built her business and decided that she wanted to do a little bit more than just a traditional job. And then I see the community that she built around her through the support. I teach my kids as they go through, why are we in business? Well, we're in business to make money, but when we're making money, we can now help others. We can serve. And so that model of service is something I think I first gleaned from watching her. Then it was then added to my career of service in the Army.
Mhm.
And my hope is I can continue that tradition and pass that on to my kids.
I love that, and I appreciate you saying that. There's a, there's plenty of opportunity to be retrospective when we have an interview like this. So I appreciate you going back to your mom. That's actually quite strong. I like that. Um, when it comes to the things that you are doing every day, what would you suggest are the things that allow you and your business to stand out from the competition? What is it that separates you that other people that are trying to get themselves set up that they can maybe learn from or do their best to assimilate? So what separates you?
Yeah, I would actually I'm gonna pull two answers out of the one question if you don't mind. So uh,
Sure.
I would say one of the things that we've focused on this year, which has really made helped the business turn the corner, is consistency in our processes. And that is, we've grown to the point now where, I don't have I'm not touching all of the things that need to happen in our office. We've got a full staff, and that staff has support people and systems along with it. But we found that we really elevated our game as a property management company when one property management team, we were able to show and demonstrate that all of their processes were in alignment or direct alignment with another property management team, meaning that I can have somebody that didn't have familiarity with the portfolio. I could put that person in there and they could work seamlessly because the way that they're doing something in their corner is the exact same way that everyone with that role or function is doing it across the office. Now it's a process, and we're still refining that process and getting better at it. But our decision to make certain that we're doing things consistently across all of our processes was probably the first thing. And then the second point that I wanted to squeeze out is we had, as we started to grow, we lost touch with daily priorities. And so one of the things that I think is unique to my office is every day we have a sync session, a very quick 15-minute session to make sure that we are all properly aligned. And in doing that, we start every day knowing that we're all moving in the same direction. We're able to have a quick crosstalk, make certain that priorities are aligned, that nothing's missed throughout the office. And it doesn't take long, but that quick alignment every morning has definitely added value and added a degree of consistency across our office.
Very interesting. How many people are on your team?
We're currently at 8 people.
Okay. And before anybody else watching this video is going to ask, I'm going to ask you, how do you get 8 people to get in the room together and have this meeting? Because I'm sure there's
Absolutely.
going to be people, there's no way you can do it.
Yep.
I know you can do it, right? I just want to hear your answer.
Yeah, and it took a little bit of time, right? But we've
Mhm.
again we focus on being precise and being responsible with everybody's time. So the way that we do it, we purposefully start 15 minutes before the top of the hour. And then I use Slack as the platform that we use. And so we don't all have to be in the same room, but we all cameras on and we can see everybody in person. We've built the culture so that we do all of our chit chat and catching up about the previous day before the start of the meeting. And then we reward everyone for you're up, you're seen, you're down. Hey, these are my priorities. This is what I need for support. And then these are some concerns, and then we move to the next person. And very rarely do we not start on time. Most importantly, very rarely do we run late because we've made the decision that these are the finite things that you're allowed to talk about, and we don't solve problems in that meeting. We just identify problems and we schedule those discussions for later in the day.
Love it. because now you set the tone. And the one word that you mentioned that I want everyone to pay attention to, and I think it's one of the most powerful words when it comes to business, and that is the word culture, right? Once you establish the culture that everybody is living within, working within, collaborating within, you find people are either attracted to it and they want to be a part of it, or they're going to deselect themselves from the process of being a part of that culture. And you live a better, more successful team life because addition through subtraction, those people will leave because they don't fit your culture. And there's nothing wrong with that. They're probably better fit for somebody else's culture. I like the idea that you have this established every day because now everybody knows 15 minutes before the hour, got to get on this call and talk about my priorities and things I need. That way we can move forward for the next thing. Beautiful. It's a great thing to do. Now, I've also noticed that you, like you said, you love building teams and you love solving problems. This whole thing that you've just described, Ralph, is the epitome of what you are as a problem solver and building a team because you have a common direction that everyone in your team is following. You support them with being precise and responsible with their time, and you give everybody the clear direction of what's happening today. You couldn't ask for a better communication with your team. What else is there that you think people would want to learn from one of your experiences as you have last 3 years? What is it something that's come across in the last 3 years that you think, yeah, people need to know that?
I would say an extension of culture, and that is we initially decided the way the culture would work inside of the office dynamic with our teammates. And then
Mhm.
we've also decided that we wanted to kind of also expand that or widen that aperture to our clients, our customers. And so one of the things that we've done in our expansion is we've been very deliberate and looked at our investors, the customers that we've had, and we've had some hard conversations internally about is this investor in alignment with our culture? And in many cases, what we've done is we've had to end those relationships, those service relationships, for the simple fact that that culture was not allowing our office to continue to move forward. It was impeding our growth. We were
Mm-hmm.
we were spending a lot more time on our investors that weren't aligned, and because they weren't aligned, there was the gnashing of teeth, a lot of excess phone calls, a lot of frustration surrounding a
Mm-hmm.
relationship. And what I really liked about what you said, Scott, is it was well intentioned. The investor, the customer was really just looking for a particular service. We were delivering that service, but we just weren't aligned. And
Mm-hmm.
rather than spending that time making something work that just wasn't a good fit, we finally had to step back and just openly acknowledge, hey, two well-intentioned people, this business relationship is clearly not in the best interest of both parties, and we've worked to remedy that. And in some cases, the hard conversation allowed us to align our culture, and then in other cases, we ultimately had to decide to part ways.
And I think that's a strong, value-driven way to run your business, right? Your values as an organization, as a business that's providing a service, has to align to your customer base. Otherwise, you're providing something they don't want, or you're not providing something that they do want. In both of those scenarios, the misalignment is causing resentment and frustration on either side of the equation. And being candid, being transparent about what you're looking to do through your values, your structure, your culture, you attract the right people. And as I said, you may very well have people deselect the opportunity to work with you. And one of the things that I believe most entrepreneurs, when they start out, and this is common among everybody, the chaos that is your brand new business, you're trying to fill every day, every minute with a revenue generating opportunity, and it's just not happening. So you end up sacrificing, all right, well, it's probably not the best customer, but they're going to pay. So you go and work with them, right? And before you know it, you're wasting so much time and energy on what we call a D level customer They don't pay on time. They're a pain to work with. Their values and what they're trying to do don't align with yours, but you're working with them because they're paying you. And you have two choices: either keep them and let them drain you, or you get rid of them and move on to somebody that is aligned to you. I know it's easier said than done from our ivory tower, right? Where we tell somebody, yeah, just get rid of them. But
Yep.
you're going to be happier when you do and able to move forward with the right people that are on your wavelength. And I think that's an important part of what you've described. And if I'm wrong, let me know, but I think that's what you described.
No, I think you're spot on. And what I would tell you is, and again, I speak to several other property management owners, property management company owners, and we all do the exactly what you described, right? We get the work that we can as we're building the business. We're unsure of uh, the security of that recurring revenue, and so anything's better than nothing. Let's just keep the doors open.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point you step back, you have enough business that you can actually do the comparison. And from a revenue generation perspective, I think when you finally start to put a cost or a value to your time, your effort, and your energy, then all of a sudden it's a no-brainer. Uh, I think the hard part is also the recognition that you're only going to have the time to put that value when you get enough revenue that you can actually
Yeah.
start to kind of make that analysis happen. So I think it's a relatively predictable cycle for new business, especially in my field with property management. And what I love now is I can, as I speak to other business owners in different markets that are kind of going through that same cycle, is I can encourage them and tell them, yeah, well, we've all taken on customers that we probably in hindsight wouldn't have. Uh, one of the one of the I think things that differentiate my company from others is I purposely took hard clients up front because it allowed me to gain that experience. There's very few property management things that you're going to need, requirements that you're going to need that this office hasn't done because we've taken more than our share of the rough, hard property.
Mm.
Had a lot of those rough, hard portfolios. We've had to work through that in order to get it to a steady state. And so my perspective all along was, well, if it's building experience, even if it's not a portfolio I want to keep for the long haul, I'm able to provide that service to the owner. I'm able to provide that service to the tenant. The business learns, but then at the point in which it's no longer mutually beneficial, then we have that larger, harder discussion, and that model has actually worked out very well for us.
And I think, Ralph, what you've described too is it's giving you an opportunity to know what you like and what you don't like, what you're good at, what you're not good at. So you either get rid of what you don't like doing, or you improve upon what you're not very good at. And now you're in a much better position than you were when you started. And that
Absolutely.
goes all the way back to a violently executed plan with the contingencies drawn in. That way, I'm moving forward with this plan because I'm going to get it done. But I know eventually I'm going to have to do certain things to either jettison somebody from my portfolio, or jettison a service from my portfolio, or jettison a customer or a client that's not fulfilling my expectations. Either way, you've got an opportunity to learn each time you move forward. It's an excellent way of doing things. Couple questions for you. I think I'd love to know, what is a book recommendation that Ralph Ware has for somebody out there?
So I've always loved, and I hate to go back to, an oldie but goodie, but I'm a big GTD, getting things done.
Oh,
I've
yep.
loved that book since the first time I read it. I don't go through it annually to have people tell people, every year I go through it one more time, and so it's not on my annual playlist anymore. But what I found is it just from a core, how efficient are you on any given day?
Mm.
I think that it's a great baseline for anyone trying to build efficiencies and move to that kind of that strategic management and strategic understanding. Um,
It's a great
what
book.
got you here won't get you there. I can't think of the author off the
Mhm.
top of my head, but I love that book. And it really opened my eyes to the fact that, you have these habits that make you really, really good at a particular thing. You slowly develop those, and then they make you really, really good potentially as a young manager, early leader, learner. But those skills will only take you so far. You will naturally plateau, and at
Hmm.
some point, you've got to learn the equivalent of those skills at the next level. And that was a book that really opened my mind to that concept and allowed me to let go of the comfort that goes to I've always done it this way and it's given me success up to
Hmm.
this point. If you're growing, at some point you're going to have to grow out of those processes and evolve.
That is exactly right. And what's funny is I wrote down the words comfort zone because that was going to be my next question for you, and you just answered it. If you stay in your comfort zone, you're going to be in that zone for a long time. You're not going to bounce off the edges and expand it and learn and grow to a different capacity. And that's part of you said it earlier is every time we get a chance to do something we don't like, we get a chance to learn something. And then we know either we're good at this or we're not going to be good at this, and we can adjust accordingly. I think so many people, for instance, this person is an incredible electrician,
Mm-hmm.
but they won't broaden their skill sets. They won't learn anything new. They won't develop different beliefs about certain things. So, in other words, they're very good at this one technical task, but they're not capable of breaking down the walls of their comfort zone and stepping outside to become a better business person. And that's what I'm hoping people get a chance to learn here today is it's one thing to be very good at what you do. It's another thing to know I'm not always going to be just good at this. I have to be good at everything. I have to keep
Absolutely.
building.
I think
Um,
not only that, a very interesting thing. I've got three school age kids, and we were talking to a recruiter, and they were talking, hey, we're training your children to take on jobs that don't exist right now. And something about that stuck with me, right?
mhm.
Because everything, whatever your business does, that service or that product will have to evolve. And so, no matter how valuable the skill set that you might currently have on it, that field might change, the market will likely change. And in order to continue to keep that relevance and to continue to earn and grow that market share, you're going to have to be willing to, at least in my experience, you're going to have to be willing to grow and evolve with it. I don't think it takes away from that thing that you're really good at. You can still, for the electrician analogy, I think you still want to maintain that expertise, but I absolutely agree that you need to be open to or willing to continue to learn. I think you have to be a lifelong learner in life, and business is one great example of where that will pay dividends.
Love it. And that one of the seven keys to a winning team, the last one, number seven, is lifelong continuous learning. If you are not willing to expand your skill sets, like I said, and rearrange or understand your beliefs in a different perspective. If you're not willing to do those things, you are confining yourself to mediocrity that you've raised yourself to at that very moment. And if you don't break that chain, you're always going to be mediocre. And who is my son says this all the time. I did not wake up this morning to be mediocre. I woke up today to kick ass. So how am I going to do it? Okay, let's what are we going to learn today? Let's do something different. So I give you tons of credit for having this philosophy, and I appreciate you installing it into your kids because that is something the generations behind us um, need very desperately. So thank you for that. Last question for you, sir. And I love this question because it puts you on your heels a little bit.
Okay.
You walk in a park and you see an 18-year-old Ralph Ware sitting on a park bench.
Okay.
You sit down to him and you say, what?
Oh my goodness. Uh Man. Well, I guess the first thing that I tell him is that I would tell him to brace for the ride. I would tell him, hey, just as good as you think that it could be, it will likely be much better. And I think that the things that I focused on in my youth which were the most important things in the world at that particular time, in no way were nearly as beneficial, nowhere nearly um, as impactful as the reality as living that life over these last 20 years. And so, I would tell, my young self, one, enjoy that hairline while you have it. But other than that, enjoy the ride. And there's so much that goes into working through youth, learning about life, the life outside of, what you learn in schoolhouse during your primary school years, whether you go to college or not, but that transition from being a child to being an adult to being responsible for more than just yourself is a great experience for me. I think just blessed beyond measure. And I wouldn't say my only regret is that I didn't sit back and just enjoy the ride nearly as much as I would have, knowing now what I knew then, or knowing then what I knew now.
Oh, sir, thank you. It was a pleasure and a great final answer. The words brace for the ride. That's the first I've ever heard somebody say that. And I think it's an excellent explanation for what you have gone through in your life. And it's the the fact that what's going to happen to you is better than what you think it's going to be is an exceptional way to live a life. So kudos. That's fantastic, man. I thank you so much for being on the program. This was
Again,
great, educational.
I
Yeah,
just
I look
want
forward to connecting.
that's great, Scott. Thank you for the opportunity. Always glad to have the conversation. Thank you.